Hi, I'm Charlotte Merrill, and this is our So Let's Be Friends podcast. This is a place where everyone belongs, and every story matters. Together, we celebrate our differences, bring awareness to disabilities, and build a more inclusive and supportive world. One conversation at a time, let's open our hearts and listen with kindness.
I like when people ask me about my crutches because they can get to know me, and I like having friends, so let's be friends.
This life is beautiful, and you are wonderful.
Hi, friends, and welcome back to So Let's Be Friends, where we talk about love, inclusion, and sharing ideas to see the world through others' eyes. I'm Charlotte, and today we're celebrating Acting Human, inspired by Judith Heumann's book, Being Human. She taught us that being human means standing up for one another, and that's what we are here to do. Share stories that bring us closer and remind us that every life rises when we lift each other up.
Awesome, Charlotte. Thank you.
You're
I'm
welcome.
Anna Merrill. I'm her mother, and I'm so lucky to get to do this with her. And so I wanted to start out just asking her questions. We like to interview others and learn about their stories, but every so often we have an Acting Human Week in honor of Judith Heumann, like she just said. So I want to ask you first about what stands out to you the most about Judith's story in her book, Being Human. What story stands out to you the most? And an example I wanted to share real quickly, and then I'll let you answer the question. An example is when she was just 5. She was denied the right to attend school because the principal told her she was a fire hazard. And I know you've experienced things like that where you are separated, from assemblies or from other classrooms before, and that's not very easy. But she was a fire hazard in her wheelchair. And that's hard to hear. So Charlotte, her mother fought for her education for years. She taught her how Judith needed to advocate for herself. And that also begins with courage and persistence. So my question to you is, what stands out to you the most about Judith's story in Being Human, with, just being pushed aside and told her that she's a fire hazard?
It's so powerful that Judith's mom refused to give up. She didn't just fight for her daughter, but for every child who came after. That's a love and in action looks like.
I like that. That's what love in action looks like. And that's what we're talking about today, is being human, right? Acting human. And I like that it's a play on her words, and we can talk about that in a minute. Judith Heumann, her last name is Heumann. So she does it a play on words, and it's just really powerful. So
she inspired me.
She sure inspired you, didn't she?
One reason to do this podcast.
Yep. And when she passed away, you wanted to carry on that legacy and continue to teach that, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to also share, her mother fought for her to be inclusive in the classrooms and get to do those things. But the same thing as I fought for you to get to do those things. But it didn't just help you. It helped her siblings behind her, but also helped other kids in school. So why do you think she called her book Being Human?
I think Judith wanted us to stop separating people with disabilities from everyone else. I think she was saying, I'm human, just like you. Let's act like it.
I like that part. Let's act like it.
Let's act like it.
So, like we were talking about, Judith used a play on her own name. Human sounds like the word human, right? Like her last name, we just spelled it a bit ago, Heumann. and I have it written here so I don't spell it wrong. So Judith used a play on her name. Heumann sounds like human. Heumann, just like the word human, acting human, to remind us that disability is a normal part of humanity. She wanted to say, this is what being human looks like. We all belong.
Mm-hmm.
So, Charlotte, what moments in her life show the true meaning of acting human? Just by we've read her book together, and we're going to continue to share that more. And if you want to look it up, Being Human by Judith Heumann, it's on Audible, and you can get it other places like Amazon. But what moments in her life show the true meaning of acting human? And I guess I want to tell a little bit more about it so the audience understands. But she has lots of stories of her advocacy through, the last several decades, all the way back into 1977. She helped lead the 504, and a lot of us that do, have anything with special needs, or anytime we have surgeries or anything that it's going to make our lives a little bit different than what we're used to. She put the 504 in place, the sit-in San Francisco. And that's something you can look up in the news and, on YouTube or in past articles. But she led that 504 sit-in in San Francisco. And it was a protest that actually lasted for 28 days. People even did food fasts. They did everything during that time. It was the longest nonviolent occupation of a federal building in U.S. history, the longest protest. They fought to force the government to sign regulations protecting the rights of people with disabilities. Judith spoke up for thousands who couldn't enter the building, couldn't see or couldn't speak for themselves. And there were lots and lots of people that were a part of this protest because of that. And then they actually put a stop. The news was there and everything, but people started they cut off the phones. They cut off food getting to them because they were trying to make people leave. And it got dangerous even because they were cutting off people coming in and out, so people were not able to get their medications. It was a really big deal. And I like how they said it was a nonviolent protest for 28 days. And so she stood firm with this in San Francisco. So my question to you, though, is trying to understand the little moments in life. So what moments in her life show the true meaning of acting human?
Acting human, standing up for others, even when it's uncomfortable. Judith didn't fight for herself. She fought for everyone who was left behind.
Yeah, she fought for people that were being left behind, right? And
like me.
Do you
and
feel
my two other siblings.
Do you feel like you're left behind sometimes?
Yeah.
Sometimes. Well, she fought for people, struggling in that area. So that was neat that she fought for you. Now you get to carry on that legacy and fight for others besides yourself, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what this podcast is. And so I really like that word there. It says it's uncomfortable. And even today, for some reason, I'm feeling really uncomfortable. And I know it's because we're being vulnerable and it feels a little bit scary. But I think being uncomfortable helps us to grow, but it also helps us to move forward with a mission, right?
Yeah. And I also want to talk about what you had me get when I was 18.
Like a guardianship?
Yeah.
That's something, that's a whole nother podcast we could do on guardianship. That's an important one to do. But what did you want to talk about with that?
I fought for our rights.
She fought for her civil rights. And that's a quick story I can share real quick, but that's something we should actually interview and get somebody on. The importance of guardianship, why we do guardianship, because that wasn't something I took lightly. We didn't just rush into doing the guardianship. I first had to talk to Charlotte, get her permission, help her to understand. She's my sweet daughter, and somebody can talk the $20 bill out of her hand, right?
Yeah.
And that can be really dangerous. So, what?
I need help with lots of things, like cooking and taking care of myself a little. And I knew how to do the civil rights and all of that stuff, because my daddy is a government teacher. And I learned got the idea how to do that. And when my mom was helping me signing the guardianship papers, she noticed a standout like she got this thought saying, "Don't sign this yet."
I did. And it was because it was going to take your civil rights away. And I didn't realize that when you signed, at least in the state of Arizona, when you signed guardianship, you actually signed their civil rights away. And I really think that's a whole nother podcast that we need to do.
Yeah.
So we didn't sign her guardianship at that time. We actually ended up, getting lawyers involved, investigators involved. We actually went to the state capitol, and I think that's what she wants to share. And that's a whole nother story. And she actually got to be part of changing an outdated law. So now in the state of Arizona, guardianship is actually a little bit more, you get to discuss it between judge and lawyers and what her rights are now. But even just a few years ago, when she turned 18, she's 21 now. But when she turned 18, if you signed
3 years ago,
you actually signed civil rights away. Her right to vote, her right to ever have a chance to drive, her right for me to leave her in a grocery store by herself to have a chance to go shopping. And we weren't comfortable with that, so we pushed it away, the paperwork, and we went a whole nother route. And it took us a while. We made a few people upset and uncomfortable, and that was really hard. And of course, it made us uncomfortable. But by the end, in June, is when we got the letters and the texts and the emails saying that Charlotte had been a part of helping to change an outdated law. And so that was really neat about 3 years ago.
So now my sister is going to turn 18 in June. Now she can do rights.
It's not going to be as hard as it was for you because we fought for that, right? The advocacy. I love that you shared that story because we went through that, and that wasn't a simple thing to go through. It made people unhappy that we were not taking that typical path and just dotting I's or crossing T's and going down the simple path. We actually took another lane, and Charlotte got to be a part of that, and that was huge, and that was scary. But she got to meet some wonderful people through it. And we'll share that story another time and probably get someone on to interview about guardianship because that's kind of a controversial, uncomfortable conversation to have a little bit.
Just had a feeling to say that.
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you shared that. So now because of what you did, it's going to be a lot easier for Caroline. We may not even have to get lawyers this time. We're just going to be taking care of the paperwork correctly. And then we reevaluating every year after that until my kids decide
the world is changing.
It's changing.
And it's also changing scary.
It's changing scary, but it's changing good too. And we have a lot of people supporting each other through it, right? Yes. Good. Okay.
Thank you, Mommy.
Yeah, of course. So we talked about it before. Disability only becomes a tragedy. In another podcast, we talked about this, and I know it made you really emotional too, but we talked about it before disability only becomes a tragedy when society fails to provide the things we need to live our lives. And we talked about that. If we need a road, we build a road, right? And what they forget sometimes, those with disabilities, it's not they can't get up on the stage because they can't walk. They can't get up on the stage because there's not a ramp. And that's what we need to remember is, and what do you think she meant by that? What do you think when society fails to provide the things we need to live our lives? What do you think she meant by that? You want me to give you an example?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Judith often reminded people that her wheelchair wasn't the problem. Okay. It wasn't her and her wheelchair that was the problem. It was the lack of ramps. Okay. The real issue wasn't her disability, but society's inaccessibility. And I just think that's important. We're not the problem. You're not the problem, right?
Yeah.
It's the inaccessibility and the lack of ramps that becomes the problem. And so now the question there is, what do you think she meant by disability becomes a tragedy when society fails to provide the things that we need to live our lives?
It's not the disability that stops us. It's when we don't have access to or understanding. That's the tragedy Judith was talking about.
Yeah, when we don't have access to something, right? And I know there's a story when she graduated finally, and I can't remember what she was getting a certificate, and she was so excited because after all the advocating that Judith's mom had done, she was finally getting to go get her award. And when she got there, she just cried inside when she saw there was no ramp. She didn't want to be lifted onto the stage. She didn't want to be hauled up the steps with her wheelchair on the stage, just be put on a show. She just prayed there was a ramp.
Yeah.
And there wasn't, and she just wanted to turn around and go home and cry. And her dad said, nope, you've earned this reward, and he got her onto the stage. And that's where her wheelchair shouldn't have been the issue. It should have been that they didn't have a ramp. And that's what's so sad. And so that's what we're paying attention to and focusing on, is making sure that those with disabilities don't become the tragedy, that we focus on what we need to give access. And also, I like the word that you said was understanding, because sometimes we just have to reword things differently, or someone that can't see, there has to be Braille available so they can have understanding, right? And this world is getting better and better at all this accessibility, but there's still a lot lacking, especially in rural towns and different areas. So we're just trying to help spread the word and help people be aware, make sure there's handicap bars and bathrooms and different things like that. So how do we honor Judith's legacy in our daily choices? Well, did you know that she served in the Clinton-Obama administrations? Okay. She used her platform to encourage people to listen to those who lived the experience. She believed that real inclusion starts when we stop assuming and start asking. I really like that. Okay. And we're told that all the time not to assume in so many situations in our lives. But sometimes we need to just not assume, but maybe ask.
Yeah, like ask questions, not assume.
Yeah, don't just assume things, ask questions. Like, for example, and I know we talked about it in another one, but with your arms and your crutches, you were visiting with someone one time and he shook my hand, and then he just chose not to shake your hand for you. He assumed you couldn't because your hands were in crutches. And I liked how you took your hand out of your crutch and you said, "You can ask me," and you shook his hand. And I just thought that was so cute. And I like that's a good answer right there, is just quit assuming and start asking. Ask questions, ask what they need, ask what you can do to support them, and vice versa in return. We can honor her legacy in our daily lives by being the person who asks. Okay, what do you need, or how can I help? Right? Just like that. Instead of assuming, we can honor her legacy by asking, what do you need, or how can I help? And that doesn't just go for those with disabilities. That goes for anybody and everybody. Some of us have bad days sometimes, and our minds are tired, and we're exhausted, and we're running hard. Instead of just assuming that somebody doesn't like us or doesn't want to be our friend, maybe ask them, what can I do for you? What do you need? How can I help? And I just think if we kind of come forward with that motto in our mind, what do you need? How can I help? And I just think that could change a lot of relationships to good. So, what do you wish people understood about living with disability? So Judith said, we're not asking for pity, right?
Yeah.
We're asking for respect. We don't want people to feel sorry for us.
Access and equality.
Exactly. You don't want people to feel sorry for you, do you?
No.
That's not going to do any good. Okay, so go ahead.
I wish people understood that disabilities isn't something to fix. It's part of who we are, just like Judith said. It's not about feeling sorry for us. It's about seeing us as equals.
Say that last line again. That's so important. I love how you said that.
Judith said it's not about feeling sorry for us. It's about seeing us as equals.
Perfect. That was very well said. And I think that's a good quote she says. Nobody really wants to have anyone feel sorry for them.
No.
Okay? We're not going to get anywhere in life going down that road, are we? Okay?
No.
So what does acting human mean in your home, school, and our community? What does it look like to you?
To me, acting humans means slowing down to notice who might need a friend or a ramp. It's small actions that make a big difference.
Yeah, just even small actions, a smile. Or I know that we carry a suitcase ramp in our car because there's areas that my kids can't get up on a 12-inch curb. And so sometimes we just need to put a ramp in place, right? So there's actually things like that. You can have a suitcase ramp in your car. And I think that's pretty cool. It looks like a suitcase and it unfolds into a ramp. So just having that available, or just being a friend when someone needs a friend. I'm not saying everyone should carry a ramp in their car, but just seeing that available, making it available. So Can you share a moment when you felt seen or unseen because of who you are?
When people look at me.
No, start the whole thing. Oh yeah, you did. Sorry, go ahead.
When people look at me and see my crutches before they see me, that can be hard. But when someone looks at me in the eye and treats me like everyone else, that's being human.
And how does that make you feel when they look you in the eye and treat you like everyone else?
It makes me feel happy, like I'm included, like I'm like everybody else.
Yeah. How can kindness and inclusion be revolutionary in small ways? And what that means, how can kindness and inclusion make big changes in small ways? Do you want to answer, or like an example of what I'm talking about? Okay, so Judith often talked about how kindness during her protests from volunteers who brought them food. Remember that 28-day protest they had in San Francisco? People were just volunteers were bringing food, bringing their medications. And staff helped also to translate for the deaf participants that were there, people that couldn't see. This made the movement possible. Those were all small acts, but it helped make big changes. So how can kindness and inclusion be revolutionary in small ways?
Sometimes a simple act of kindness can be the most powerful protest when we can choose to love, change the world quietly but completely. We don't always have to be loud. By example.
Yeah, we can lead by example, right? We don't have to be loud. We don't have to be stomping our feet and throwing a fit. We can just be quiet and help change just through love.
Yeah.
And do it quietly, right?
Yeah.
They said that was the quietest protest they had. It was a 28-day protest in San Francisco. And it was quiet. They just stood their ground.
Judith Heumann showed us that being human means more than being able to walk. It means being able to love, include, and believe in one another. I think about her courage, and it reminds us that I can have courage like her. And advocacy isn't just in Washington. It's in our classrooms, our kitchens, and in our friendships.
Yeah, we don't have to go to Washington, D.C. We don't have to go to the state capitol. We can do it right here in our living room, correct? Yeah?
Yes.
In the park?
Yeah.
In our everyday lives.
Anywhere where you are.
And I really said in our friendships. We can build new friendships too. Good.
Yeah. Judith Heumann says, change never happens at the pace we think it should, but it always starts with the one person saying, this isn't right.
That was powerful. That's exactly right. We need to stand up and say this isn't right, and we make the change, right? Good.
A quote I like to say is forward, no matter the pace. I came up with that quote when I was learning how to swim, but it also can work in this situation too. Changing our thoughts and inclusion. Judith reminds us we all have the right to live in the world. We have the responsibility to make it better. So let's be friends.
That was a tough podcast. I know. You did so good. Tough conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte. I sure love you. Thanks for being an example to me.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mama. If you're listening, thank you for being a part of this. We are excited to share more stories and more truth and more love in every episode. Until next time, love one another, and like I say, so let's be friends.